I wanted to talk a little bit about how to solve trigonometric applications, also known as the dreaded word problem. So what I'm going to start off doing, I'm going to start talking about the things you should do to approach a word problem, and then actually how to solve it, you know, if depending on if you're going to finding a side or an angle. And then we'll look at a couple of examples and see how they work out. So I'm going to jump right into this. So what do you do? So depending on the word problem, sometimes you might be given a picture of what's going on, but a lot of times you're just given a question kind of in paragraph form. So read the question carefully and sketch a triangle that's going to show you what's going on. Okay, you don't need to be all artistic about it. For goodness sake, I know I'm not. But just show a right triangle with that'll show the situation. Once you have that, label what you know. The problem's going to give you some kind of information, whether it's the height or an angle or something like that. So label the appropriate sides and angles with what you know. What are you being asked to find? Are you looking for an angle? Are you looking for a side? Label that piece of it with an X or whatever your favorite letter is. And then finally, once you know what you're being asked to find, you have to figure out how you're going to solve that. So if you're looking for a side, it's going to be a normal trig function. So, you know, just a normal sine, cosine, tangent, set up the equation, and then solve for that side, which might involve a little bit of algebra, and then stick it in the calculator. If you're looking for an angle, that's when you're going to use an inverse trig function. So inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. Most of these problems will want your final answer in degrees. So depending on what calculator you're using, keep that in mind. We may have to convert that back to degrees at the end for the final answer. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of examples here. So here's my first one. I'll let you read that to yourself for a second. And if you're following along here, pause the video for just a second and see if you can sketch a triangle and see what's going on with this thing. So we got a kite fully extended out 50 feet, but the actual height's 30 feet, and we want the angle of elevation. So what do we got? I got a kite. There's my kite. I know it's beautiful. And I know the current height of it is 30 feet. And then there's someone standing out this way, and if you do it the other direction, obviously that's okay too. And then the string itself that's supporting the kite is 50 feet, right? And we want the angle of elevation. Now, anytime you see the word elevation, that means the angle going up. So that means we're looking for this angle right here. I'll call it X. So at this point, we have our triangle. You know, because that height, that's our right triangle right there. So we go back to SOHCAHTOA, and what trig function would we use for this, and how would we set up our equation? Well, we know that's our opposite side is the height, and the string itself is being blown by the wind as our hypotenuse. So we would write the sine of x degrees, which we're trying to find, equals 30 over 50. And then how do we find that angle? Well, we use the inverse. So the angle itself that we're looking for is going to be the inverse sine of 30 over 50. And at this point, you have to get the calculator out because I don't know what that is off the top of my head. I'm not sure if many people do. So you get your calculator and you do the inverse sine of 30 over 50. Now the calculator I'm using on the Inspires, I just have it set up in radians. So 0.64, that big long decimal there, is in radians. But if I want my final answer in degrees, we know how to convert back to degrees. So I'm going to multiply that answer times 180 over pi. And then that's going to be my final answer. So my angle of elevation here is going to be 36.87 degrees. So x is 37.86 degrees, I think is what it was. And that's the answer to the question, and you're done. So sketch the triangle, label the sides, know what you're trying to find, and kind of go from there. And again, that was finding an angle. Let's look at one more example. Got a cell phone tower. And again, take a minute, try to sketch the triangle there, see what it would look like. And notice this time we're looking for how much wire will we need. So that sounds to me like it's going to be a side of a triangle. So same deal. Here's my cell phone tower, 185 feet tall. The wire that's going to support it is going to be kind of the diagonal line here. And then there's the ground. And what else do we know? We have an angle of depression. So this means that's the angle coming down from the horizontal. So if I kind of draw an imaginary line from the top of the tower up here, what that's saying is the 70 degrees is this right here. So it's not technically kind of a part of our triangle that we have drawn right here, but it's easy enough to find it. Right? Because if we draw on straight horizontal, if we know this whole angle here is 90, then that means the angle up here would just be 20 degrees. Okay? Obviously, I didn't draw this very good because that doesn't look like a 20-degree angle, but drawing aside, that's kind of what's going on, right? And what are we trying to find? We're trying to find the length of this wire that's going to support this tower. So again, I'm going to call that X. And based on what we know, what trig function would I use for this? Well, if this is my angle, I know this is my adjacent side, and that is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to write the cosine of 20 degrees is equal to 185 over x. In this case, again, I can't do this quite directly. On some calculators, you actually could, but I'm going to do the algebra to get x by itself. Whenever the variable is in the denominator, kind of a little shortcut is these two guys can just switch places. So x is going to be equal to 185 divided by cosine 20. And then, again, now it's time to get the calculator back out. So 185 over cosine 20. So 185 divided by cosine of 20 degrees. And again, my calculator is in radians, so I have to convert that. I have to put the little degree symbol so the calculator knows what I'm doing. Hit enter, and there is your answer. So again, I'm going to round that to 2 decimal places, 196.87. 196.87. And that is your length of the wire. So I hope that that gives you a little bit of insight on how to approach some word problems. Again, it's just that step-by-step process. Draw the triangle. What do you know? And then what are you trying to find? And I'll kind of leave you on this screen here. We'll do some more of these in class, but I do hope this helps you out. Please don't forget, if you want to see some more videos on trigonometry and pre-calculus moving forward, feel free to subscribe. And I will link to a couple other videos here at the end of this as well. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time.